Hello everyone, today I will be taking a visit back to Mario Kart DS. In my last video where I talked about this game, I gave my personal rankings on each kart based on their designs. In today's video, I will take a closer look at the tracks and rank them from worst to best. Mario Kart DS was actually the first game that introduced me to the series. I remember when everyone in grade school was playing it. When I was looking back at all the tracks, a lot of the nitro tracks were really strong and would be known as some of the best tracks in the series. The game will also introduce retro tracks, which were previous tracks from Mario Kart games. While Mario Kart Super Circuit did bring back Super Mario Kart tracks, DS will expand on this idea by bringing back tracks from Mario Kart 64 and Double Dash as well. While the ideal retro track sounds cool, the execution of them on the DS was a bit underwhelming to say the least, due to the hardware limitations on DS, so at least about half the tracks were pretty mediocre. But besides that, I still think Mario Kart DS has a lot of interesting tracks to talk about. So without further ado, let's begin. Yeah, a thing that you'll notice early on in this list is that a lot of the tracks will be Super Nintendo tracks. That's due to how the tracks are generally very short and uninteresting, and the worst Super Nintendo track in my opinion is Choco Island 2. Not only does the course look like a little shit, but it's also extremely hard to drive, with an off-road that is extremely punishing, and a merge section that makes your vehicle hard to control. That's also not mentioning the ramps throughout the course, and if you hit them at a wrong angle can really screw up your race. With a course that looks bad and is really difficult to drive, it's no surprise that Choco Island 2 is the worst course in Mario Kart DS. Every Mario Kart game usually has a starter course, one that's generally easy and gets you used to the game's mechanics. Figure 8 Circuit is DS's starter course, and it's probably the worst one out of the series. While all the other starter courses in the series at least have some sort of gimmick like boost pads, shortcuts, or interesting turns, Figure 8 Circuit has none of that, as you just drive in a Figure 8 for 3 laps. There really isn't much more to say about this track, so let's go to the next. Koopa Beach 2 is another simple course where you just basically race around in a circle for 3 laps. The raw sections can also be tough to control, and it's easy to fall into the deep water, which can be annoying. But unlike the previous 2 tracks, there are a few things I like about Koopa Beach 2. I think the music and atmosphere is pleasant, and the Cheep Cheeps on the beach is a cute feature, but besides that, there really isn't much more to say about this course. Mario Circuit 1 is a lot like Figure 8 Circuit, in that they both are starter courses and are pretty simple, but I'll give Mario Circuit 1 the edge since the turns are more interesting, and there are a few obstacles on the road like pipes. Besides that though, the track is pretty forgettable, and goes by so fast that you'll probably forget about it after this video ends. Donut Plains 1 is probably the best Super Nintendo track on DS, which isn't saying much, but at least it's something. What I like about this track is that it's longer than the rest of the Super Nintendo tracks. It also has a nice scenery, and the background music is pretty good, not to mention the bridge, which is more than the previous tracks had. While the track is still boring, it is at least acceptable. Baby Park was one of the best tracks in Double Dash. It's just a fast-paced track where you have to try to avoid objects for 7 laps while contained in a small oval. However, when it was brought back to the DS, the track was significantly nerfed. Instead of 7 laps, you now have 5, and the lack of giant items from Double Dash really made the track feel much less hectic. However, with all that being said, still can build up over time, and the background music still gives the track a somewhat hectic vibe. But yeah, it's still a very poor remake of a beloved track. Yoshi Falls is another track that is basic as he just raced around an oval 3 times. However, there is more detail in this track as it has 2 different pathways you can choose, with one being on top while the other is at the bottom driving through a waterfall. The background music and the track theme is also pretty nice as well. While the track might not be anything special, it at least has a few things that make it stand out from the previous tracks. Peach Circuit is another starter course, first appearing in Mario Kart Super Circuit. And by now you can see why a lot of retro courses on DS are not that good. Anyway, Peach Circuit also lacks any obstacles and is also pretty basic. However, I will say that the castle in the background looks nice, and the peach trees are also a nice touch as well, but it's basically the same as the previous tracks, so there's not much more to say. Anyway, let's move on to the next one. Threat-based Snowland is probably the first track on this list that I don't dislike as much. I think the theme music gives off a cool holiday feel, and the ice sculpture of Mario as well as the snowman are also nice touches. The track can overstay its welcome at times, as it is one of the more longer tracks, but besides that the track is alright. Moo Moo Farms is another relatively basic track, but there are 2 things I like about it. One of them just the general theme, as racing on a farm is an interesting idea. The other thing is the dynamic with the moles, as if you decide to drive on the right, it is a faster route, but you risk hitting a mole, so it gives the players a choice which route to choose. I am disappointed that there isn't any cows that are on the track, and I do think Moo Moo Meadows would make a lot of improvements to Moo Moo Farms, but I still think the track is solid as it is. Yoshi's Circuit is a track that is beloved by many, due to the fact that the track is literally designed as a Yoshi. While that's still the case in the DS version, there were some nerfs made due to hardware limitations. One of those being that the colors in the DS version are a lot duller than in Double Dash. They also removed the shortcut as well that is beloved by fans. Despite that though, Yoshi's Circuit is still a solid track that is fun to race on. Luigi's Circuit is another starter course, but unlike the previous ones, this one actually does have some things in it like boost pads and a chain chomp for you to avoid. It also has another side of the track where the races go in the opposite direction, and you can bump into them if you're not careful. While the track was made a lot wider in the DS version due to hardware limitations, I don't think it really affects the track that much, and it's still a really solid course. Desert Hills is one of those tracks that people either like or hate, and I'm someone who actually likes the track. I think the Super Mario 3D effects with the red pipes and the sun shooting fire down on the track is a cool feature. However, the hill section can be hard to drift on, and if you get on the off-road it can easily mess up your race, but besides that it's still a pretty decent course. DK Pass is a track that I've always thought was just okay. I like the music and dodging snowballs while going up and down a mountain is fun, but when compared to future tracks like DK Summit and Mount Wario, it really doesn't stand out as much. Also, I don't know how this is supposed to be a DK inspired course, but that's just a very minor complaint. At the end of the day, I think the track is alright, but nothing memorable. GBA Luigi Circuit is another circuit track in a game that has plenty of them, but unlike previous ones, this track has a lot more going for it. One thing I really like about it is that the rain and stormy atmosphere makes the track very unique, not to mention the weather balloon and storm station in the background, which is also cool as well. This track also has a fair bit of obstacles as well, since there are puddles for you to avoid all over the road. Overall, GBA's Luigi Circuit is a fun and unique track. Banshee Boardwalk is a very interesting track since you race on a boardwalk in the middle of nowhere. The music also has an eerie vibe to it, which makes sense since there are boos all over the track, as well as bats flying towards you in the building section. The boardwalk is also sort of challenging since it's narrow, but not too challenging where it messes up your race. You also have a giant Cheep Cheep in the middle of the course, and I just really love that inclusion since it's random. I think Banshee Boardwalk does a good job of giving off a creepy vibe, and it's one of the better retro courses on DS. I really like Mario Circuit. That may be due to its recent inclusion in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, but it's still a really enjoyable course on the DS. The track is split into two sections. During the first section, you have to avoid fireballs being shot at by piranha plants. Then during the second section, you have to drift through some steep turns. I really like how the track is balanced with being both simplistic and difficult, which is why I think this is one of the better circuit tracks in the series. Mushroom Bridge is another track that, due to technical limitations, was nerfed on the DS, with the biggest change being that the bridge section will be removed. Besides that though, I still think the track has a unique setting with the course taking place in the city, plus the cars makes for some interesting obstacles, so even with the removal of the bridge shortcut, Mushroom Bridge is still a fun course. For some reasons, I've always loved Bowser's Castle tracks, and while this one is more linear and simple than most of them, I still find this one really enjoyable. What I like most about this course is the hops you make over the lava gaps while fireballs are shooting up at you. There's just something really satisfying about that, and I think this is a really solid course. Choco Mountain is just an incredibly pleasing course. I really like the course layout as you're racing on the foggy mountains that actually look like chocolate, unlike other tracks. The background music is also pretty good, as well as the boulders that fall down, making the track a little bit challenging, but not too difficult. Overall, it's a very nice and relaxing track. Cheep Cheep Beach is a simple yet detailed course due to it being split into three sections. The first section is on the boardwalk, then you race on the beach while you avoid crabs and the water rising. Finally, go through a jungle section. I just really like the overall theme and layout of the track. I think the rise and water mechanic is interesting since you can cut corners easily. Overall, this is a really enjoyable course. At first, I didn't really see anything special about Shroom Ridge, but the more I thought about it, the more my appreciation grew for it. Shroom Ridge is pretty much like a road trip as you drive on the mountainside, avoiding cars and taking steep turns. The atmosphere is just calming and it's one of the more interesting concepts in the Mario Kart series. Out of all the retro tracks in DS, Sky Garden is probably the only one that can be considered great, and I think that speaks a lot about the poor quality of retros on the DS, as well as just how good Sky Garden is. The setting is just extremely unique since it takes place in the sky, and the overall vibe is extremely enjoyable. There are also ramps that you can use as shortcuts which can be really satisfying. Overall, this is a really fun track. Wario Stadium in DS is a lot like Waluigi Stadium in Double Dash. It's just a very adrenaline heavy course as there are many speed ramps to take, as well as fireballs to avoid. I also like how you have to pay attention to the angles you hit on the ramps, as if you hit the wrong angle you could end up in the mud, or hit a fireball which can slow you down considerably. This is just a really fun and energetic course. Many of the nitro tracks in DS had course designs that were based on previous Mario elements, and Luigi's Mansion is a prime example as one. I love how the course has so many references to Luigi's Mansion, with the portraits being the bosses you fight in the game, as well as the mansion itself. I also like the forest section as well, since the booze and the moving trees give it a haunted feel. However, I will say that the mud section is a little too much, and it can be hard to drive in. Besides that though, Luigi's Mansion is still one of the highlights in Mario Kart DS. Tick-Tock Clock is another track that is inspired by a previous Mario game, more specifically the clock world from Super Mario 64, and I think that Mario Kart DS does a great job at adapting that level to a course. The rotating gears make for an interesting course design, since it changes what route you can take, and the pendulum and clock hands make for interesting obstacles as well. Due to how unique the track is, I think it's one of the best in Mario Kart DS. As I stated early in the video, I've already loved Bowser's Castle courses, and this one's no exception. I really like the moving gear and the multiple routes it forces you to take. That's also not mentioning the rotating bridge you have to cross to get to the other side, and if you fall down, it slows down your race considerably. This is another castle course that has many unique and memorable elements. In every Mario Kart game, Rainbow Road is always the last nitro track in the game. That's due to it being the most ambitious, as well as the most difficult course. While I don't see a lot of people talk about DS's Rainbow Road, I think it's still an amazing course. Background music sounds epic, and the 360-degree loops are extremely satisfying since it uses anti-gravity, which was something not seen in Mario Kart before and would become normal until Mario Kart 8 came out. Overall, this is a really fun track, and one I hope gets remade soon. Peach Gardens is one of the most beautiful tracks in the series. The scenery is very nice with flowers all over the course, and the background music and castle gives the track a very elegant feel as well. I also like the maze section since it forces you to change your path every lap due to the chain chomps that travel the mazes. This is a course that Nintendo always loves to bring back, and I can totally understand that since Peach Gardens is a very pleasant track overall. Airship Fortress is based on the airship levels in Super Mario Bros. 3, and like those levels, this course also gives off an adrenaline rush. There are many objects you have to avoid like giant bullet bills, moles, and moving torches. Finally, go to a cannon and get shot to a building with a huge spiral, and start the lap all over again. A lot of people were disappointed when this track wasn't added in the booster course pack, and I can totally understand that since the track has a fun and chaotic vibe to it. Hopefully it will make its return soon. Anybody who has played Mario Kart DS knows Waluigi Pinball is one of, if not the best course in the game. It's just a very unique course as it takes place in a pinball machine. The neon lights throughout the course gives off a very psychedelic atmosphere. Every time you get an item, it makes a pinball machine sound, which is only unique to this course. While all of that is very cool, the best part of this track is pinballs and bumpers at the end, as they force you to plan out your route every lap to avoid getting hit. This is just a very unique track and one of the highlights in the game. This might be a little bit of a controversial pick, but I personally think Delfino Square is the best track in Mario Kart DS. The background music and piantas everywhere just gives the track a very calm and relaxing feel. The alleyways are also very unique since there's multiple routes to take, as well as shortcuts if you have a mushroom. Finally, there's a drawbridge that goes up and boosting off it is really satisfying. This course pretty much has anything you'd want, and that's why I think it's the best course in Mario Kart DS, and one of the best in the series. Anyway, if you made it to the end of this video, I just want to thank you. Let me know what Mario Kart game or review you want me to do next. And if you want to see more videos like this, I would appreciate it if you could like and subscribe. Anyway, with that being said, Koopa out.